So tell me about you played in a British Open,
I did.
which is unfreaking believable in and of itself.
It's fun.
And so I think when you first played in your first British Open, you had a similar experience that a lot of us do when we're playing in the first of something. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened?
This is a first tee jitters on steroids story.
Right.
So let me give you the setting. Royal Birkdale, 1983.
Yeah.
At the time, I was working in the golf shop at Turnberry.
1983, you were a young man.
I was very young. I was 21 years of age, just turned 21. First time I ever qualified for the British Open, obviously, and the last time, by the way. But I got through the qualifying stages of the Open and found myself in the primo tee time of 10:30.
So cool.
Great, beautiful day, blue sky. I was so nervous. I was like O.J. Simpson at a retrial. Now, can you imagine how nervous that would be? He would be
pretty nervous.
In that setting. He'd be pretty nervous.
Sure.
But multiplied by 50. So 10:30 tee time, beautiful day, first British Open. The 10:15 tee time, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Raymond Floyd. Absolutely. So I'm behind them.
They're right in front of you.
They're just teed off. And when Nicklaus at that time, it wasn't in his prime, but he had a chance to win the British Open. When people watch those players, when they tee off, the stand's empty.
Yeah.
Because they found their spot in the stands and now they're going down the fairway to go run and see Jack Nicklaus. So that leaves me.
So as you get up.
Yeah, they're starting to, it's like Robert nobody from nowhere, right? So anyway, the story goes, I get up there. I thought about my tee shot for probably since the qualifying. So for about 10 days, I had all that time to worry about that shot. And I mean worry. I teach my students how to overcome that. But at that point, I had no clue how to overcome that. I'm on the stage, the biggest stage of my life. Probably shouldn't have been there. I was probably the least qualified to be there, an assistant pro working in the golf shop. So got to the first tee, they called my name, and it was I forget his name, Ivan. He talks like this. Now on the tee from Turnberry Hotel, Robert McMillan. And when I got to the tee, it was a par 5, right? But they changed it into a par 4. It was 470 yards. I'm using a steel shaft persimmon driver.
Right.
That's how long ago that was. Don't laugh, by the way.
Yeah, right.
And my whole game plan was, terrible game plan, don't make a 7. Yeah. No, that was my game plan. Don't embarrass you. If you made a 5, a bogey, it would be okay. What a terrible thought to have. But I was thinking, just get it in the air off the tee and don't step on yourself. So he calls my name. I put my tee in the ground. My plan was 3-wood down the middle, hit an iron on the green, survive. Get through the first hole and take a deep breath. So they call my name, put the tee in the ground, ball falls off. Happened to you, happened to everybody, no big deal. Tee it up again, it fell off again. It's happened to you before, and you and me. But it's not happened to me a third time. So now the crowd silences. Now it goes from quiet to deathly silence. I pick the ball up again. Caddy then looks at me and says, do you want me to tee it up for you? And I'm like, please stay away right now. What? He's not going to tee my ball up for me in the first hole of British. Are you kidding me? So I lean down and I take both hands. Now at this point, imagine I'm sweating. It's 83 degrees. It hasn't been 83 degrees in England for 30 years,
you got
right?
Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer.
Just teed off,
and
there's people, but it's deathly silent.
Yeah.
So I then go down for, I believe it's number 4, and I use my left hand to steady the ball, and I can
double-handed tee.
Yeah, you can hear the people mumble, please get the ball on the tee. I get the ball on the tee, and I'm thinking, as I step back, don't fall off. It's a little wobble, and it stayed there. And you could hear the change in the quietness to so quiet. It was like almost like, oh, thank God he's got a tee. Right. So I looked down the fairway, I've got a 3-wood. That was my game plan. And back then, you won't remember this, but Olimar, you know that name?
A little bit, yeah.
Olimar came out with a 3-wood that was very low profile. I was a very low ball hitter.
Yeah.
So I used this 3-wood to get it up in the air, to help me get up in the air, low profile. Well, when I looked down at the ball's teed up 1.5 inches for a driver, and I've got a thin-faced 3-wood. And Jerry Boyle, my caddy, knows that that's not the right tee height for my golf club. I'm hitting 3-wood. So I sit the club down, and at that point, now imagine this story is going on for 3 or 4 minutes, but this is all happening in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like it's taken forever. So I put the club down, and I've got 2 choices. One, attempt to tee the ball up at its right height with the chances of it falling off again, and now I can't get off the tee. They may as well say, you get 48 seconds to hit a golf ball. Yeah. It's a lot longer than this at this point, right? So, or find a way to hit it.
Right.
And in the split second, I think to myself, in my mind, two things are going to happen, I think. One, if I lift the club up off the ground, that would make it level, but I never do that. I never have done that. It's just not part of my DNA. I always sit the club on the ground.
Might as well try it at the first tee of the British Open.
May as well try it for the first time. Stay in my game plan, stay with the process, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I lift the club up, if I top it, that'd be embarrassing. But if I sit the club on the ground and I hit this tee and the ball stays there and it falls straight down the first hole of British Open, I'm all over the TV.
Yeah.
Not YouTube, but it didn't exist
Sure,
back in
right,
1983, right?
right.
But I'm all over the news. So I thought, decision time. I'm just going to lift the club up off the ground and act like I'm doing this. I'm supposed to do this. So I just lifted the club up and I just said a little bit. Back then, it wasn't so much a prayer. It would be now, but back then I thought, please God, let me get this in the air. So at that point, I just thought, you're on the range, just make a range swing. And I swung back and I hit it. Well, I hit it, Eric, right dead nuts in the middle of that Olimar face. And I looked, as I'm looking up, I'm seeing this bullet draw going down the middle, and I held my finish, and I'm like, there's no way this is happening. Well, finally get off the tee, I walk down there, I've got 195 yards, and I was in between a 4-iron or a cut 3-wood back then, no hybrids, I didn't carry a 3-iron.
Yeah.
So I thought, man, I'll hit my 4-iron. So I hit my 4-iron, and I hit probably, I'd say, a good solid 1.5 inches behind it. A little bit of ground and then ball while the fairways were firm. And it got 30 feet in the air and it bounced and it bounced and it rolled 10 feet behind the hole, dead nut center for a 3.
Birdie.
3 in the first hole at Royal Birkdale, and it was horrible. Hope it never happens again.
Birdied the freaking first hole after all
first
that.
hole, yep. Leaderboard was at 2 under, and the scorekeeper got up there and pulled my name. You had to fumble through it to get my name. It was probably at the bottom of the pile. McMillan 1 under, and I played pretty good in the front 9. I shot 2 under in the front 9, but had a bad back 9. I made a triple bogey on a par 5 17 from the greenside bunker, and I was laying 2. So I'm in really good shape, laying 2, greenside bunker shot, and I caught it thin, and the crowd moved out the way, and it rolled out of bounds this much. Now I had to drop it back then. You had to drop it behind your back, back in those days, and it was plugged, and I made a triple and shot 75. So you know, the story goes, you know, now as a teacher, when I think about that, I think about what I've taught my students to overcome that. And I've always said that a golf shot, if you practice hard, practice a lot, and practice well, is just a non-emotional execution of a procedure. There's no emotions involved. It's all about process, procedure. You've done it a million times. Put the ball down, just look at the ball like it's a range ball. It's just another swing, and just go through your procedure. Back then it wasn't like that, but
dude,
now I can do it. Yeah, it's great.
What a story.
Yeah, it's good times.
Beautiful, love it.
Good times.